revenged. But the shameful truth was that the thought of mutilation had given him nightmares. He suffered badly from nightmares, did Rufius. War cries, the pounding of feet. It was happening. It was happening right now. He couldn't believe how quickly they'd got inside the city. They must have been betrayed from within. It was the only explanation. His body stiffened and tingled. Everything grew slow and sharp and bright. Around the turn of the road they charged, yelling and screaming and waving their long swords above their heads, others carrying flaming brands or spears already drawn back to hurl. And the size of them! He couldn't believe how fucking big they were. It was unfair, for they themselves were a ragtag group made up of those too old and too young for proper units, infirm and weak with hunger too. They drew closer, so that he could now see the crazed bloodlust on their faces. Fuck, but they didn't stand a chance. He was going to die. He knew it suddenly. He was going to be run through and left to bleed out upon the cobbles. Barely 17, and never once even having lain with a woman in... A spear hurtled out of the gloom towards his face. He saw it only at the last second. He jerked up his shield, and it thumped into it like a blow from a double-handed war axe, knocking him back against the man behind, who cursed and shoved him forward again. The spear's barbed tip had pierced the leather of his oval shield, so that its shaft now hung down heavily onto the cobbled ground in front of him. Before he could pluck it free, the Visigoths were on them. One of them stamped hard upon the spear's shaft, dragging down Rufius's shield and exposing him to his sword. He cried out and threw himself to the ground, a moment before the blow could cleave off his head. His helmet fell off and bounced away. He lay there in a huddled ball as the barbarians smashed into their feeble line, treading on his face and body. Swords clashed, people shrieked, and then it was over. Footsteps charging onwards, the war cries growing fainter, and all he could hear now was the wailing and sobbing of his wounded comrades. He was still lying there when a hand grabbed him by his short hair and hauled him to his feet. A knife as sharp as a razor but the size of a small sword was pressed against his throat. He was manhandled through a fast-striding line of Visigoth warriors to find himself face to face with 4 high-ranking officers. "This one seems fearful enough," his captor told them, "if his bladder's anything to go by." It was only then that Rufius felt the hot wetness on his leg and the piss squelching in his boot. Shame burned his cheeks. The tallest of the 4 men turned to look at him. He was maybe 40 years old, handsome yet battle-scarred, his long, fair, grey-threaded hair combed into ropes that were then tied in an ornate side knot. "You know who I am, boy?" he asked. It wasn't his face that told Rufius the answer, though it matched all the descriptions he'd ever heard. It was his bearing, and the deference of those around him. All kinds of flatteries came instantly to Rufius's mind, the kind of flatteries that prudent people paid to rulers in order to stay alive. But he couldn't do it. At this moment of great crisis, his cowardice failed him utterly. He lifted his chin instead and gazed into the monster's eyes. "You're the man who starved my sister," he told him. The knife cut even sharper into his throat. "He's our king, you little shit. Address him as such." But Alaric only waved his hand for his soldier to relax. "An honest one, at least," he said. "Isn't that what we need?" He turned to Rufius again. "I'm sorry for your sister, but your emperor could have saved her at any moment by honouring his promise to my people. He chose to feed his chickens instead." Rufius stared helpless at him. "What do you want from me?" "Look around," said Alaric. "Your city is already lost. The only question is how many more must die before we leave again. So I want you to take a message to your commander for me." "But I don't even know where—" "Of course you do. Good, honest foot soldiers like